Good day everyone, my name is Hazman Zoyan Binjun and today I will be presenting a study on youth unemployment in Malaysia, which has become a growing concern despite increased access to higher education. According to the Global Economy 2023, Malaysia has the third highest youth employment rate among Asian countries at 12.49%. This issue was by economic transition and shock like the COVID-19 pandemic, which has disputed traditional job pathway and left many young people in informal work or unemployment for long periods. Our study focused on identifying the macroeconomy and demography factors influencing young employment, specifically GDP growth, tertiary education enrollment, labor force participation, and population growth. By analyzing this variable, we aim to provide valuable insight for policymakers to develop effective strategies that promote inclusive employment opportunities and support a more resilient labor market for Malaysian youth. Figure 1 shows the trend of young employment in Malaysia from 1024 to 2023, focusing on individual aged 15 to 24. Over this period, fluctuation in the unemployment rate reflect various economic cycles, policy change, and labor market conditions. As of the most recent data in 2023, the young employment rate stands at 12.49%, highlight ongoing challenge young Malaysians face in secure employment despite improvement in education and economic development. Trade the Malaysian GDP growth rate from 1024 to 2023. Each vertical bar represents the annual percentage change in Malaysia gross domestic product GDP from year 1024 to 2003. The highest growth year was around 1026 with GDP growth to 10%, while the lowest growth year was 1028 with 7.36% due to the Asian financial crisis. We show the labor force participation in Malaysia for individual aged 15 to 24 over a period of 3,000 years, from 1024 to 2023. This bar chart shows the lowest labor force participation rate in 2010 with 40.06%, while the highest was during 2009 with 45.63%. This labor force participation rate reflects the proportion of young people in the employment or actively seeking work as percentage of the total population in that age group. The bar chart explains the Malaysian population growth from 1024 to 2023, which measure in millions. Malaysian population increased over the years, starting at 19 million in 1024 and rising to 33 million by 2023. Figure 5 illustrates a significant increase in Malaysian tertiary education enrollment from 1024 to 2026, peaking at 46%, followed by fluctuation and a decline to 41% by 2023. This trend reflects Malaysia pushed to expand higher education access, but the post-2060 decline in higher graduate unemployment rates underscore the challenge of ensuring employability, aligning education with market needs, and managing demographic pressure. Key theme in your research proposal on youth employment in Malaysia. That's all for me. Thank you.
My name is Olivia Naponganang Kamat, metric number 100728. Now, move to the key issues surrounding youth unemployment in Malaysia. First, youth unemployment stood at 10.8% in 2023, which is more than triple the national average of 3.4%. This points to a major disparity in employment opportunities for young people. Second, although GDP growth has averaged between 4 to 5%, it hasn't been effective in generating sufficient employment for youth, especially after the disruption caused by COVID-19. Third, the tertiary education enrollment, which peaked at 46% in 2016, has fallen to 41% by 2023. Allowing 40% of graduates remain unemployed within 6 months of graduating, mainly due to a mismatch between their skills and market needs. Fourth, while labor force participation peaked at over 45% in 2019, This hasn't been matched by job creation, resulting in intensified competition for limited opportunities. Finally, Malaysia's growing youth population from 19 million in 1994 to 33 million in 2023 is adding further pressure to the already strained labor market. These interconnected factors paint a challenging picture of the youth employment landscape. Next, building on the issues discussed, let's clearly define the problem. In 2023, Malaysia recorded a youth unemployment rate of 12.49%, placing it as the third highest in Asia. This is despite increases in tertiary education enrollment, which show a disconnect between education and employment. The core of the issue is a mismatch between what education provides and what the labor market demands. This mismatch is limiting job opportunities, especially in a context of moderate economic growth and a rising youth population. We also see that high youth labor force participation, which stood at 45.63% in 2019, has not translated into real employment gains. Many young people face underemployment or are pushed into informal sector, issues that have been worsened by the effect of COVID-19 pandemic. Ultimately, this leads to wasted human capital, economic stagnation, and a growing risk of social unrest. It underscores the urgent need for policies that tackle these interconnected challenges. Next, our research will focus on 4 key questions. First, to what extent does GDP growth actually help reduce youth unemployment in Malaysia? This will help us understand the link between economic expansion and job creation for youth. Second, how does tertiary education enrollment influence employment outcomes for young Malaysians? We want to evaluate whether education is equipping youth for the real-world job market. Third, what role does youth labor force participation play in shaping unemployment trends? These explore whether young people entering the labor market are finding suitable opportunities or facing systemic barriers. Lastly, how do population dynamic, especially demographic growth, impact youth unemployment? We aim to assess whether population pressures are outpacing job availability. Next, the objective of the study. The general objective is to investigate how GDP growth, tertiary education enrollment, labor force participation, and population dynamics influence youth unemployment in Malaysia. This research aims to provide evidence-based insights that can guide the development of effective employment strategies and policies. To be more specific, this study set out 4 key objectives. The first one is to assess the relationship between GDP growth and youth unemployment in Malaysia from 1994 to 2023. Second, to evaluate how the tertiary education enrollment affect the employability of youth aged 15 to 24 years old. The third one is to analyze the impact of youth labor force participation rate on unemployment trends over the last 3 decades. And lastly, it is to examine how population growth and demographic changes contribute to youth unemployment changes. Moving on to the significance of this study, this research holds several important contributions. First, it helps align Malaysia's education blueprint 2015 until 2025 with the actual job market demands, ensuring education outputs meet employment needs. Second, it supports strategic planning by ministries such as the Ministry of Human Resources and the Ministry of Higher Education to reduce youth dependency and improve job readiness. Third, it offers timely insights for handling employment transition in the post-pandemic era where many young individuals face uncertainty in the labor market. Lastly, it enhances national competitiveness by tackling issues related to waste human capital, ensuring that the skills and talents of Malaysian youth are not underutilized. Now move to the scope of the study. This study is based on quantitative micro-level analysis. It looks at large-scale data rather than regional or microeconomics differences. It excludes regional disparities, so, for example, it does not compare youth unemployment in different states or cities. The research relies on time series data to examine long-term trends and assess the potential effects of policies over time. Importantly, while COVID-19 is acknowledged as a major economic shock, it is treated only as a contextual factor and not a core variable in the analysis.
Hi, my name is Roger Berepo. I will present the chapter 2, the Theory Review. In this chapter, we will review the relevant literature on young employment in Malaysia, focusing on how macroeconomic and demographic factors contribute to this ongoing issue. To begin with, despite better access to education and various young skill programs, Malaysia's young employment rate remained higher at 12.49% in 2023, ranking as the third highest in Asia. This persistent issue poses a significant threat to country economics, development, and social stability, potentially increase a poverty level and social imbalance if not properly addressed. Current efforts such as expansion of higher education and vocational training have yet to bring significant improvement. Therefore, this study pays close attention to four relevant factors highlighted in the past research, which are GDP growth, tertiary education, environment, young labour force participation, and population dynamics. Theoretically, this study is guided by two key frameworks, human capital theory and labour market theory. According to human capital theory, originally proposed by Baker in 1964, education is expected to improve knowledge, skill, and productivity, thereby enhancing employability. However, this positive impact depends on how education outcomes align with labour market demand. In Malaysia, graduate employment indicates a clear mismatch between qualification and job requirement. Labour market theory, as discussed by Stimulus in 1994, explained that labour markets are not always perfectly efficient and flexible. Young participation alone does not automatically translate to the lower unemployment if economy cannot generate enough quality jobs. This explains why increasing young labour force participation may not effectively reduce the unemployment rate if job creation does not keep pace. Empirically, findings from both developed and developing countries further clarify this issue. In developed countries, research by Smith et al. 2018 showed that stable growth rate does not guarantee a reduction in young employment due to skill mismatch. Similarly, Kahn in 1999 found that while higher education raises earning potential, it does not ensure employment when graduate skills do not match market need. Jason and Taylor in 2019 emphasized that many graduates still face underemployment or end up in employment jobs despite having advanced degree. In developing countries, study by Chandran et al. 2020 and the World Bank 2022 highlight how rapid population growth and weak alignment between education system and university demand worsen young employment. Many young people lack the skill required for formal jobs and are pushed into low-paying informal work. Rahman et al. 2021 also note that weaknesses in vocational training further reduce job readiness. Additionally, economic shocks such as financial crisis or pandemic tend to worsen underemployment and young inactivity. When it comes to key variables, Suleiman 2022 argued that GDP growth can generate job opportunity, but this alone is sufficient if the education and training system do not produce graduates who meet labor market needs. Raman 2021 similarly found that increasing labor force participation through education campaign does not reduce unemployment if there are no suitable jobs available. Therefore, the International Labour Organization 2023 emphasized the creation of better quality jobs that align with graduates' qualification as essential for addressing young employment. Finally, gap in the literature remain. Many past studies have focused only on one or two factors affecting young employment, often neglecting the combined impact of macroeconomic and demographic variables in Malaysia's unique context. By addressing GDP growth, tertiary education enrollment, labor force participation, and population dynamic together, this study aims to provide a more comprehensive understanding and evidence-based recommendation for tackling young employment in Malaysia. Thank you.
For our Chapter 3 overview, this section sets the stage for our research methodology. Our study focuses on understanding how four key variables, which are GDP growth, tertiary education enrollment, labor force participation, and population dynamics, can influence youth unemployment rates among nations aged 15 to 24 over the period from 1994 to 2023. We aim to provide a clear and structured approach to answer our research questions using a combination of data collection, theoretical frameworks, and empirical modeling. The goal is to ensure our analysis is robust and provides actionable insights for policymakers. Moving to section 3.1, data description. Here we detail the data we'll use to explore youth unemployment. Our dependent variable is the youth unemployment rate, which measures the proportion of individuals aged 15 to 24 who are unemployed but actively seeking work. This data comes from the Department of Statistics Malaysia, or DOSM, a reliable source for market statistics. It's a critical indicator because it shows how well the economy is absorbing young job seekers. For our independent variable, we've selected four key factors. First, GDP growth rate, which reflects Malaysia's overall economic performance, sourced from macro trends and the World Bank. We expect higher GDP growth to reduce youth unemployment by creating more jobs. Second, tertiary education enrollment, which measures the percentage of youth aged 18 to 24 in higher education, sourced from UNESC, or Institute for Statistics. While education should improve employability, we're also looking at whether a mismatch between skilled thought and market needs contributes to unemployment. Third, we have the youth labor force participation rate, also from macro trends and UOSM, which shows the proportion of youth either employed or actively seeking work. A higher participation rate might not always mean lower unemployment if jobs are scarce. So this will be interesting to analyze. Finally, population dynamics, sourced from the OSM, tracks Malaysia's population growth from 90 million in 1994 to 33 million in 2023. A growing youth population could increase labor market pressure if job creation doesn't keep up. All data is time series, covering annual observation from 1994 to 2023. This 30-year span allows us to capture long-term trends and economic cycles. like the Asian financial crisis and the COVID-19 pandemic. To ensure data reliability, we'll use interpolation for any missing values and not discrepancies between sources. We also consider the impact of external shocks like COVID-19 when analyzing trends. Moving on to 3.2, Theoretical Framework. Our study is grounded in two key theories. The first is Human Capital Theory, proposed by Becker in 1964. This theory suggests that education enhances skills and productivity, which should improve employability. We use this to examine how tertiary education enrollment affects youth unemployment, especially given concerns about skill mismatch in Malaysia, where graduates often struggle to find jobs matching their qualification. The second theory is labor market theory, articulated by Stiglitz in 1994. This theory highlights that labor markets aren't always efficient, and simply increasing the number of job seekers doesn't reduce employment if job creation lags. This is relevant for understanding why rising youth labor force participation in Malaysia hasn't always led to lower unemployment. Together, these two theories provide a lens to interpret how education and labor market dynamics interact with unemployment trends. For section 3.3, empirical model of this study. To quantify the relationship between our variables, we use a multiple regression model. The model is expressed as in the slide and as described in the data description.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dinovisan Jambi and Frankie, and I will now present Chapter 3 Research Methodology for our research project titled Young Unemployment in Malaysia, the Role of GDP Growth, Education, Labor Force Participation, and Population Dynamics. This chapter covers our theoretical framework, empirical model, data sources, statistical method, descriptive finding, correlation and regression analysis, and conclude with a summary of our insights. Let's begin with a theoretical framework. Our study is in two core economic theories. First, human capital theory, Becker 1964, which suggests that education enhances skill and productivity, improving employability. However, this works effectively only when the skill acquired match the job market demands. Second, labor market theory, Stiglitz 1994, which explains that unemployment can persist even in a skilled labor force if the economy fails to generate sufficient job opportunities or faces institutional inefficiency. This theory helps explain Malaysia's situation, where despite increased tertiary enrollment, young unemployment remains high, according an average of 12.5% in recent years. Now, let's look at our empirical model. We developed a multiple linear regression model to test our hypothesis. The model we show at the slide. I will explain where YUR is for young unemployment rate. GDPGR is gross domestic product growth rate. TER, tertiary enrollment rate. LFPR is for labor force participation rate. POP is for population growth rate, and for E is for error terms. Each coefficient B represents the marginal effect of the variable on young unemployment. Moving on the method used, we analyzed second time series data from 1994 to 2023, collected from reliable sources such as DOSM, UNESCO, Macrotrip, and the World Bank. We apply the following statistical technique. The discretion statistic to observe general trend and distribution correlation analysis to measure the strength and direction of bivariate relationship. Multiple linear regression analysis using OLS with new ways reduce standard error to correct for autocorrelation. Diagnostic tests including the variance inflation factor VIF to check for multicollinearity and the Brush-Goldfield test to assess autocorrelation. Next, let's discuss the descriptive and statistic. Young unemployment rates average 0.4%, peaking at 14.6% in 2020 and dipping to 8.5% in 2000. GDP growth shows sharp fluctuation from a high of 10% in 1996 to a low of negative 7.4% in 1998. For the tertiary enrollment rate increased from the late 1990 until 2016, 46%, but slightly dropped to 45% in 2023. Labor force participating rate for young was steady between 40% and 46%, peaking in 2019. Population growth rose consistently from 19 million to over 33 million, applying pressure on the labor market. Now, for the correlation analysis. Okay, for the GDPGR and YUR, a strong negative correlation, negative 0.55%, indicates that higher economic growth reduces young unemployment. And for TER and YUR, a positive correlation, positive 0.49, suggests that increasing enrollment may contribute to job competition or skill mismatch. And for the thirdly, LFPR and YUR, a weak negative relation, negative 0.14, show minimal influence. And for the lastly, POP and YUR, a positive correlation plus 0.37 reflects the impact of the growing population on employment ability. Let's look at the regression result. The model R square was 0.62, meaning 62% of the variety in the young unemployment is explained by the independence variable. The regression output was as follows. You can see at the slide for the table. For the variable GDPGR, for the significance and for the p-value is 0.01, and for the coefficients negative 0.28. For the TER is significance and p-value 0.04 and coefficients positive 0.19. And for the variable LFPR not significant for the p-value 0.28 and coefficient is negative 0.05. And for the variable of POP, for the coefficients positive 0.31 and p-value is 0.02 and significant. And this GDPR has a statistically significant negative effect, confirming that a stronger economic growth lower young unemployment. TER has a positive and significant coefficients indicating a possible skill mismatch. LPFR is not statistical significance in the full model, and for the POP has a significant positive impact indicating that population pressure contribute to unemployment. Diagnostic tests show no multicollinearity, DIF over 2, and no autocorrection, Bruce Cofield test 0.10, confirming the robustness of our model. To conclude, Malaysia must sustain GDP growth to reduce young unemployment. The education system must be reformed to align tertiary program with labour market need. Population threat should be considered in national workforce planning and employment strategy. Together, these insights suggest a dual strategy strengthens economic growth while realigning education to meet industry demands. Thank you very much. That's all from me.